to the Two Penny Games Ghost of Yotei review. I am your host for this episode of our Two Penny Games review. Phil, not usually your host for these things. Usually we have Tavin here, but Tavin hasn't beaten Ghost of Yotei yet. However, I'm here with our other friend who has beaten Ghost of Yotei, Mr. Connor Elliott.
Last night. Well, if you're Tuesday watching this, which you most likely are, I beat it 2 days ago. But I am beating
Sunday night, yeah. That's when you beat it.
Sunday night, yes. That's the correct way to say it. Yeah.
Yeah, myself, I am, I want to say probably like a week separated from me beating Ghost of Yotei.
Yeah.
But it's still stuck with me. Let me tell you that. Do you have a rough estimate of how many hours it took you to beat the game?
Yes, it was definitely just getting to 50 hours, or it was at 49 hours. So I spent a pretty good deal of time running around that world. And got the measure of it.
I would say I was just over, like the estimate for my PlayStation said it was over 70, but like I don't always trust that. I would put my time usually probably like right around 60-ish, maybe a little more than 60 hours, probably 62, 63, something like that. But yeah, let's I want to just go ahead and just dive right in with you, Connor. So go ahead and just take it away. What give us your thoughts on Ghost of Yotei?
Ghost of Yotei is a great game. It's a very fitting sequel to Ghost of Tsushima. For those of you that don't know, it is a sequel. Not one you need to play. It stands on its own and stands on its own damn well. So I very much enjoyed the story. At the end of the day, it is a revenge story, and it kind of hits a lot of the usual generic beats that those revenge stories would do. Very few things happened in this game that really shocked me, except for one moment. I was really surprised they went the angle they did with it, but I'm pleased that they did. But for the most part, it is, even though just a usual revenge story, it's a high quality one. The motivations of the main character Atsu, who is very good in this game. I guess for reference, I played it in Japanese. I'm assuming, Phil, you played it in English.
I did. I had the wonderful Erika Ishii voicing Atsu. I don't know if maybe. Yeah, that's her name for the English. I'm not entirely sure if they use a different voice actress for Japanese, because I know
definitely do. They definitely do.
Okay, I was gonna say, because I know like she has similar heritage from there, so that's why she was so excited to get into the role.
Ferouz Ai, that's who it fucking is. Oh my god, she's actually great. Very, very good voice actress. She voiced Jolene, for those of you that don't know, in the more recent part of JoJo. That was
the Stone Ocean.
Stone Ocean, yep.
Arc. Nice.
Jolene Cujo. But yeah, but she did a great performance. I had seen the English as well. I watched up a lot of clips on that. Great performance from her. What's her name again?
Erika Ishii.
Erika Ishii. Yeah, she was great in it. You know, seems like she would have carried the emotional journey of Atsu very well, as did the Japanese voice actress. Like I said, the story went through some things that I didn't expect, but overall, it doesn't really knock your socks off. There was something that happened. We'll get into spoiler talks a little bit later that I kind of saw coming from a mile away.
We'll see if we actually really get into spoilers, except for like stuff from like within the first like five-ish hours. But I doubt we'll get super deep.
Fair enough. I'm going to avoid comparing it to Ghost of Tsushima, though I do have comparisons, because it is a sequel. The combat system was very fun. I found myself really enjoying the flow of combat, switching between all of the different weapons you accumulate throughout the journey to match whatever opponent you're facing. Very often I could see the gameplays, I played it on hard. It wasn't particularly difficult on its own when you're just fighting an enemy with the preferred weapon you're supposed to do, but when you start including the elements of swapping them in the midst of fighting all of these large-scale enemies, it becomes very problematic in a good way. It becomes this balance of sometimes you're fighting one enemy with a spear, but this other asshole that you need to take out with a Kusurigami comes up, and you got to distance yourself away from him to break his shield, because it basically goes rock, paper, scissors, the way the combat system works, and it's more just the juggling aspect that's the difficult part. There were some carryovers from Ghost of Tsushima, like the parry system, perfect parries. You have regular parries. Of course, depending on the attack, you have to perfect parry or dodge it, or you can't parry it and you have to dodge it. Very often, dodging seems to be a universal response to a lot of the moves the enemies throw out at you. And it's not felt as hard in this game. I'm comparing it. Anyway, ignoring that part.
I don't remember entirely, but I want to say that there's also perfect dodges in this game, but I want to say those were part of Ghost of Tsushima as well.
They were. It's something different that I was going to go into. There is this system involving disarming that takes place where your character, the enemy you're fighting, will flash yellow, meaning you have to hold down, in playing PlayStation, the triangle button to counter their disarm. Otherwise, you lose your weapon and you got to go pick it up. This seemed to be a very unrealized unrealized system in the game for two reasons. First of all, when you're fighting a large group of enemies and an enemy pulls out that ability, because any normal one can do it, any normal grunt soldier you fight, compared to all the way up to the duels, the big cinematic duels, the Ghost franchise, I guess it's now a franchise, is known for, is
Sure.
you don't really you can't really do it. You can't really respond to it because if you respond to a generic enemy, usually there's tons of other people around you that are all waiting to get their turn in, and they'll just hit you before the other guy does his attack. And so you're knocked out of it, and that other guy's still rearing up his disarm move, and sometimes he'll just be able to hit you with it. And it seems like the best bet is just to dodge it and not to actually meet them. Not meet the mechanic with your own mechanic that's supposed to offset that. And it seems like from how it functions in the mob enemies, it would be better off in duels. But the problem there is that sometimes it's also almost incredibly impossible to react to some of those attacks that the enemy does, particularly the final boss fight. He has this yellow move where you see it coming a mile away. And even when I did that and prepped for it, I couldn't for the life of me actually counteract his disarming move. So it just seemed like, what's the point of it? Especially because if you get hit by it, the way the camera works, you can't even see where your weapon goes. So often in those duels, you're just either going to have to switch to an inferior weapon, or you just lose your weapon until you happen to come across it because you're so limited in the way you can move in those dueling spaces.
I could be wrong, but it feels like in that final encounter that you're referring to, it feels like that aspect of it was like it was written that way, like it was intentional. Like you weren't supposed to be able to react until like that final bit where it's like the rule of threes or whatever. It's like, oh, I got you this time, right?
Yeah,
I think it felt like it was written that way to me. I could just be totally wrong, and you could counter that or just dodge it. Either way.
And that being said, I could be wrong because that does make sense. It's more the issue of how it's integrated into a lot of the other enemies. It's just an egregious example.
That
if I'm running with
itself, the
point.
disarm thing, right?
Yeah. It's just not fully realized. It just really wasn't. Especially because it takes time to get into your position to disarm them because you have to hold down triangle. And very often, if you don't react right away with that, you're going to get screwed. You're going to get killed. You're going to get hit with that disarming move. Exploration.
Oftentimes, those disarming moves do a hell of a lot of damage as well.
They do as well. Thankfully, they aren't really a common move that's used, so it's not like you're constantly dealing with that as a problem. It just every now and then pops up in random combat encounters, and you can just roll away from it. Movement overall feels very nice in this game. Climbing, I guess this is the only time I will, before I go into the full comparisons, is better than Ghost of Tsushima. It feels like it just flowed better, but I might just be wrong about that. Certainly the open world was Ghost games just seem to have, even though they're seemingly generically made with the things, you go around, you'll find outposts that you take down and you'll get rewards for them. You'll find little shrines that give you charms that boost attributes of your character. It doesn't really do anything crazy, but something about it. I guess it's the running through the beautifully crafted world, the use of the music, and sometimes when you're coming up across, like for example, some new weapon, vanity gear as it's called, it'll be framed in this behind this like stone, in front of the stone tablet that's usually in some beautiful area, and it really makes those moments of even just simply getting cosmetic items really special. Not to mention there's these things called tales, myths. I guess were there tales and there were myths? Were those two separate things?
I think it was just tales, or
that's what I thought.
like that. It was just like stories that happened in the world that I forget his name, but that he would. I don't remember exactly, but he would essentially be like, "Oh, Atsu, you're here. Let me tell you this story."
Yeah. Yes, and they were always fun. They had valuable rewards in the form of new armors, usually, which carried over from the first game. The armor system works great because it's not one that's like, it makes you, well, sometimes it might increase your defense against certain kinds of damage, but for the most part, it's very particular bonuses it gives you. Like, for example, the armor of the Undying makes it to where parry encounters are easier, so you can hit them better, which was nice because since playing it on hard, certain fights occurred near the end of the game that made it to where you needed those. If you weren't getting the combat system down as much as you maybe should have, you really.
I imagine with playing on whatever difficulty you play on,
Yes.
You mentioned you played on hard. I kind of did the thing where you kind of create your own custom difficulty, right? What I did, I had like the enemy aggression turned up a little bit and like the damage turned up a little bit. But I also had the parry window be a little bit easier. And like just because I wanted it to be more like frenetic action and like have more stuff going on, and I didn't want to just be like standing like on easy mode, you just be standing there waiting for them to hit for like I don't know an extra 5 or 6 seconds, waiting for them to even choose an attack.
And
But
you know,
like
you
with those kind of tables you turn up, you can kind of customize your own thing, right?
right.
That's what I did.
No, yeah,
I really enjoyed it.
and you saying that, what'd you think of the game? What's your general thoughts?
Yeah, let me just go ahead and dive in. Yeah, so that was kind of how I played it. But yeah, I thought this sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, like I found myself not necessarily comparing the two, but like, oh man, yeah, I remember this aspect of Ghost of Tsushima, and I like that they brought it back here.
Yeah.
And I like the how they kind of tweaked this a little bit, and we mentioned it a little bit on the piggy bank, but like the different weapons and everything that you get, rather than just being different stances. And I think I've come around to the point where that I do prefer that, just because it's the kind of that
Yes.
extra little bit of flavor. Like you get some different like movement, like especially like with some of the different weapons, like the Yari and the Kusarigama. I like the different animations that go there with the Odachi as well. Very
You
very
like the Adachi?
fun. I found myself like towards the end, just because of like how the story and like Atsu's progression herself, really prioritizing the dual blades over anything else. The
Mm,
dual katanas, just because like that's kind of like what the ghost or the Onryo, like that was like her thing, right? That
that is
was
true.
always on the wanted posters, all of that. So like I was like, oh, I'm gonna play this character, and that's also why I didn't really change out of the Onryo armor in my playthrough. I really
Oh,
kept
okay.
the things. I still because this game, I don't remember how many kind of loadouts Ghost of Tsushima let you do, but I felt like I kept it like every time I got a new armor set, except for like the last 3 or 4 that you get towards the end, I had like a new loadout that I could then, I could just quick change to this armor set, like if I just wanted to like take a quick photo or something like that. Which, that being said, the photo mode in this game I fucking adored. This is like one of the first times I've really like dove in, except for like Ghost of Tsushima and like other times we talked about photo modes on different podcasts. But I really dove in, and I took some really awesome pictures, just to kind of capture some of these moments that Sucker Punch has really developed this beautiful world around, and I thoroughly enjoyed Atsu's journey, this revenge story of taking her revenge on the
Mhm.
Yotei Six and Lord Saito, and this whole journey that she took, and kind of, it's not. I no, I don't want to get too deep in the Duffy, but no,
Mhm.
I thoroughly enjoyed like all the directions they took with it, and just her as a character, the acting, the voice acting that we get, and not just from Atsu, from Erika Ishii, but from every character throughout this. I thought it was superbly done, and I felt like in this game it was a lot. There was a lot more of like a big supporting cast that was around you. I remember you had like your a few different characters that helped you out as Jin in the first game, but I felt like it was they cranked that up to 11 in this one, where like you just had so many more friends around you that like helped your cause, like every
Huh.
different like vendor had its own character, and I really enjoyed kind of that whole like lone wolf menu that's on the screen, where like just keeps on adding different portraits of these characters. I just really dug it. I thought it was
Your
cool.
wolf pack.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wolfpack. That's what it was. That's what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually that's one of the things I liked about this game. The cast was I found better in this one. Not even I would say it had less significant characters. I felt like I've met a lot of in Jin's story who became relevant throughout the entire thing, the narrative itself. Whereas
Mhm.
his Atsu's story, aside from 2 characters, 3 really, most of the people just kind of do their own thing and are more interacted with in the open world than in the story, which I think served it well because I think the cast was far more memorable. I will remember these characters more than I will remember Yuna, who was the thief lady that was helping you out in Tsushima, and
Oh,
her brother.
yes. Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
and there was
Correct.
also like the monk guy. I can't remember a lot of these as much as I do Yotei. Now, a lot of that is, of course, I just played it, but
Sure. There's the recency bias there. Who knows? Who knows if we'll be able to name all these characters? A
yeah.
couple months down the line.
But
But
that's
I
the
feel
thing.
like I'll remember a great many of them. Like I dug. You mentioned the how it felt a lot more like the cast in this game. They were more there for their like part stories in the open world. In that way, this kind of felt more like a TV show, where like you're this episode I'm in this area, which is just so happens to have this Yotei 6 member here, and we're taking them down, right? It was very episodic in that way, and I really
Yes.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, that would. I mean, I would say make a show about it, but I don't know if I would like that as a general thing. But
Right.
I'm gonna make more comparisons to. Imagine a lot of people, more people probably played Tsushima as opposed to Yotei.
Mhm.
So as far as
Sorry to
In-
interrupt. This is
overall-
Tavin from the Peanut Gallery. Connor, why are you worried about comparing?
well, I want to compare. My issue is I feel like with a lot of our reviews, we spend too much time when we're talking about the game itself, comparing it to whatever came before it, rather than letting it stand on its own two legs and then comparing it. At least my problem. It seems like that's the case.
All right, you're fine.
So
you've done that job then.
all right. Well, either way, improvements, right? Because I think overall it's the same level of quality. It's just the level of qualities differ depending on what area you want to look at. So you touched on.
I would call this as like a 1.5, not in like narrative, because that almost sounds derogatory. It's like, oh, it's the same game again, but it's really just like we talked about a little bit when we talked about Tsushima on Piggy Bank, where this is that kind of sequel where it's the same bones, but like it's just cranked up so much more, and it's I like this game. If for me, I'm calling calling Ghost of Yotei an amazing game on our scale, which is our 9 out of 10. I would probably say, like, sure, at the time I would say Tsushima was a 9 out of 10, but I think now I'm probably a lot softer on it. But yeah, I would say that this is an amazing game, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think both are great games. So I maybe said that again on our scale that Ghost of Tsushima was an amazing game. That might have passed with time.
Sure.
Maybe solidified through this game. So the combat system. You said you liked the combat system in this one more. With the weapons?
As far as like, yeah, the weapons as opposed to stances.
Yeah, and I was kind of like that at first, but then I thought to myself, having played Tsushima a couple of years ago, not recently, that there was more depth with the sword styles than there were more depth with the different weapons you swap between, and they still function the exact same way, which is why I just can't help but think combat was a little bit better. Not to mention, I played that on hard as well, and I found myself having more difficulty in basic combat scenarios than I did in this one, where really only the difficulty came into play when I was fighting against a certain bosses. And so I overall kind of liked that a bit more. I also liked Jin's story as a bit more. Character-wise, I think they're pretty equivalent. Maybe I even like Atsu more, but I found the conflicting nature of Jin wanting to go this samurai route that he's always lived his entire life, contrasted with the ninja way of life that he's trying to adopt in order to beat the Mongols. I found that was more interesting than, again, even though it's a quality story, a revenge story, it is just a revenge story that hits a lot of beats that you typically would expect in this kind of narrative. Atsu seems to act kind of strangely out of character at certain points. We talked about this in our impressions of the game back when it first released, in the first week it released, where she lets people live, random bandits who are just objectively bad, evil people, lets them live when it doesn't seem like she would. And she seemed like she was too moral of a character than the plot called for with her decisions. Like, she only really made one decision, I think, in the game where I was like, you're making a bad decision. Why are you doing this? But it made sense with her journey. The other times I kept thinking to myself, why are you not acting this way, given who you are and how often you talk about you had to do horrible things to survive? You know, there was no honor system there that you needed to abide by, and yet you seemed like you did. It seemed like you did the entire time. Like, it wasn't just you're really doing whatever you can to live. It seemed like she was more just a naturally good character, even if she didn't act that way necessarily all the time. But I didn't know how you felt about that contrasted with the characters.
So that wasn't really my read on it, as far as like, oh, she's acting out of character. In those moments, I look at it as like she's more focused on her greater task. Like, sure, there are those things like, oh, you got in my way, fuck you, you're dead, right?
Yeah.
But she wanted to use those people for information, and then she saw how pathetic they were. It's like, okay, get the fuck out of my sight, right? That's kind of how I saw it. And in terms of like comparison from Atsu and Jin, I don't know. I just like Atsu so much more as a character.
Personality-wise, I do.
Personality-wise, and just her journey as a character here was, I think so much more compelling to me. Not to say that Jin's wasn't compelling, because I love that push and pull that was there, where like, oh, Yuna's telling him that, hey, the samurai way is not going to work against this threat, right? You have to be ruthless. You cannot they don't abide by a code of honor, so you can't either, right? And I love that push and pull that was there in that game. But there's something about how Atsu just kind of goes balls to the wall. Fuck you. I'm doing everything I can to destroy you, destroy the Yotei 6 and like to wreck your life before I actually put a sword in your gut. Like that really just resonated in terms of like, man, this character is badass, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
super into this story, and she did a great job, and Eriki, she did a fucking phenomenal job portraying this in my mind.
And that's the thing, because even though I, prefer certain aspects of the narrative and the main character over the previous game, it's basically just, as you kind of described, tit for tat. Nothing's really definitively better, at least in like a way I can say confidently and argue to the death. Basically, I just personally found her journey to be way more inconsistent than Jin's consistent story. Though that being said, there is something that happens later that made me like Jin more than I thought I did. We'll get to that later. Either way, what was my next point? Oh yeah, exploration. I did find it superior in this game, though. Like I said, it seemed a lot more cleaned up than Tsushima's was. Like they cut out all the fat. It's just what you want to do in the open world rather than things you feel compelled to do. My first thing I think of is the fox shrines from Ghost of Tsushima. I hated them just because it felt like every single they were good on their own. It just felt like every single place I went, there was like 5 or 3 fox shrines to like one vanity item or something like that, or one bamboo striking.
I'm kind of two minds when it comes to like specifically those fox shrines, because it felt like they were so much in Tsushima. There were so much more like of a slog to like get through. It was a lot more of like a platforming, like, okay, let me do the rope thing to get across here to just get to the top and do this one shrine, right? Whereas in this game, it's a lot more like, okay, I'm just going to follow the fox for a little bit. Maybe this one's quirky. It'll lead me into like a little trap that I have to like react to grab my grappling hook onto the edge, because it's like a pitfall trap, right?
Yeah.
And I felt like they saved a lot more of the platforming and like the movement challenges for like when you're walking up those big shrines, like the actual like Yotei mountain shrines, which I dug all of those. I loved all these climbs were never tedious to me. It was always like, oh man, it's another cool challenge that where I can see this awesome like vista off in the distance, where I can another like snapshotable moment, right? That I was just really into. And I didn't really get that as much from Ghost of Tsushima, whereas I'm not going to say I didn't get any from that. Like, sure, I still took some pictures that are somewhere on my profile from for PlayStation somewhere, but I definitely have way more of those moments, and that like I feel like is going to stick with me more, and kind of I lost my train of thought there, but I feel
it's
like
gonna have a long lifeline. It's gonna lifeblood.
Exactly my point. Yes, I think that's going to stick with me more.
No, that's kind of the thing about the narrative, that it probably will do that for me as well. It's just time, It's kind of hard to say that with just having beaten it yesterday from the time I'm doing this this review. So I kind of want to talk spoilers. I want to talk spoilers. Do you want to talk spoilers? Anything you want?
I mean, I think there's not much else we can talk about as far as the game. If you're at all interested in playing Ghost of Yotei, if you're at all interested in playing Ghost of Yotei, I highly recommend it. I think it's very much worth your time. I think it's one of the best games that you're going to see this year, especially if you're a PlayStation player. And you dug Ghost of Tsushima, I think you're gonna dig this game. So highly recommend it. Go play it. If you maybe don't want to play through the game and maybe even just want to watch like a cutscene thing, I think that works for this too. Just if you want to get this narrative, but if you really want this in depth, like diving into this wonderful, beautiful like world, just kind of like sightsee through, definitely pick this game up and give it a play for sure.
I guess two more things. I'll say, but just before they leave my mind, I do like the cast of villains in this one more. Yeah. They have way more personality. They're way more intimidating. They felt way more dangerous, especially the main villain, Lord Saito.
I'm glad you brought that up too, because that was one thing that I was really worried I wasn't gonna like more than Tsushima.
I remember you saying that when you first were
I really came back on it.
Okay.
And I think this cast of villains is really really good. I think it stands head and shoulders above, excuse me, where that like Mongol leader was, and like not say he was necessarily a villain, but Lord Shimura at the end
Mhm.
of Tsushima, and kind of that like conflict that was there. I think the conflict between our protagonist and the antagonist in Yotei is way more compelling in my mind than it was in Tsushima.
I
So
absolutely agree. And I guess the only other thing I was going to bring up is I like the different. I like the Watanabe mode that has the lo-fi music that plays.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I very
So
much enjoyed that. The more I used it.
I had that turned on for most of it, and I kind of wish I didn't until I had beaten the game.
Yep.
Because like I feel like I shouldn't have turned it on when I did, and I should have stuck more with like the actual soundtrack of the game.
Oh, okay.
Just because like
That's what I did.
it kind of it kind of killed the tone a little bit, just from like there were some scenes that were, oh man, this is fucking dark, right? And then like it would be open world mode where you're just going to the next part, and then it would go with that lo-fi, the doom, and it wasn't
Yep.
necessarily like it almost killed like my mood there. I was like, oh man, that's kind of sucks. But that was on me. I did that.
Yeah, and once
So
I played
I
around
can't
with it a
blame the
bit
game.
more, yeah, it's just in how you want to integrate it. It was cool during the random duels you would have. It would fit really well with
Yeah,
the tone of those fights,
I think
for the
I
most
think
part.
I think if you're gonna mainline story,
Yeah,
don't turn on the Watanabe mode, and
yeah,
then
don't.
if you wanna clean up all like the side objectives after you're done, crank that shit on, because it kind
That's
of
where it
goes hard
flies.
in those like side missions with those duels where it's like, oh, fucking Samurai Champloo up in here. That's fucking
Boom.
sick.
Yeah, it's a thing you should use selectively, uh,
Yeah.
more so than I think the other modes that I didn't like as much personally. But the Kurosawa mode, black and white, basically, that was nice.
Mhm.
The Mike mode of having them really close up made combat way more intimate and bloody in the time. My issue was the camera work wasn't as good as just the base way you play the game, but it was again one of those modes that every now and then if you just get the hankering to see the game in a different light, sometimes literally or
Yeah.
shot somewhat differently. It's a nice thing to turn on. Whereas I do think the most notable mode was the Watanabe mode, though that might be
For
my own
sure.
personal preference coming into play
No,
because
I
I
would
love
agree with you,
Samurai
but
Champloo.
I think some people would say that Kurosawa mode's still probably like the top in
There's a
terms of
lot of
that,
people that
just
would say that, yeah.
for that like aspect of it, because like they had that in Tsushima, of course, but I didn't play on it because I wanted English VO.
Yep, yeah, and then the worst part was that the Japanese wasn't lined up to the lip syncing. Apparently, it was in the director's cut, but in that
Oh,
base
really?
game, it was not. Yeah, and that was my big issue because I'm trying
Oh,
to.
was it lined up for English and not Japanese?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay, okay,
or at least maybe not in the Kurosawa mode. I mean, that was just in general with the language,
gotcha.
the different languages in that game.
Interesting. Okay. Well, if you do want to talk about spoilers, I don't know. I don't necessarily want to get super deep into spoilers, but
No, I'm not either.
if you want to talk just a little bit of spoiler, just let me know what you want to do. This is your out now. Go play Ghost of Yotei. It's a great game. We're gonna
Please.
talk about spoilers. If you don't want to be spoiled at all, click away. That's
Thankfully,
your
it's you,
chance.
Tavin. Are you here, Tavin? Are you here? I'm going to text him to let him know we are doing spoilers, so he doesn't
And
come
then
back.
just I would when we're done, just double check so we can come back in, so we can, because he's our control man. So
He is. Like I said, it'll be brief. I don't have much to say on spoilers because I'm not a big spoilery guy. The whole thing with her brother being alive, called a mile away. It was, you know, again, this is the generic. It's very generic as far as revenge stories go for the most part. One
yeah,
of them being the drive of, well, you don't need to go on your revenge quest because you have what you love right here in front of you, still here, because she thought he'd been dead all these years, and so it kind
yeah.
of. It's done very well in the game itself. It was just obvious.
I
You know.
definitely didn't necessarily see that part coming. It was mostly like, I'm not gonna say what it was, but what happened at the very end that
Yes.
really was spoiled for me.
That is what was spoiled for you. Okay.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, and
like
I thought it was going to go that route. I thought it was going to happen before then, so I was surprised how they did it, especially because they
yeah.
kind of gave you a sense that because when he joins in on your final fight, that this
Mhm.
is going to be the final phase of the fight, and that makes so much sense. I kind of wish they did that more, but emotionally, it hit very well for what they did instead.
I
Uh,
did think it was cool that they gave Saito the little moons,
yes, the spirit.
he was doing the same thing as you.
That's
Thought
the
that was
thing.
cool.
Also what I wanted to mention, I'd have to look at it and compare it more closely, but the fighting style he seemed to use was the fighting styles that Jin would use in Ghost
Oh,
of
really?
Tsushima. Yeah, because he specifically would. There was this one move I always used. It was in the water form where he would kind of like do quick attacks, but there would be like a pause, and then he'd go and do more quick attacks. He did that exact same move, and
Damn.
so I saw some other bits and pieces here and there. So I wonder how much of his moveset was just updated Jin's, but I thought that was a very cool part of the
How
fight.
fucking cool was that final tail?
Which final tail are you talking about? Because that's what I think I missed one. Was it Jin's?
Yeah.
Yes, very fucking cool.
Yeah.
That was what I was going to say
Jin's
earlier.
tail.
It
Very, very
made
cool.
me really appreciate Tsushima and Jin as a character more than I did playing through Tsushima. Like it filled you with that sense of melancholy of
I guess
this is what he did in
I guess
the name of
playing
his mission.
Tsushima, it didn't click with me that like he was the father of like
Yeah,
being like the ninjas essentially. Like he started off
the first shinobi.
the way of the shinobi. Yeah, the first shinobi, exactly.
Yeah, and that was the thing I was expecting at the end of Tsushima was, oh, he's going to train ninjas, and that's going to be a general thing that he does. But it just does. It pulls you, oh, he went to live this quiet life, this very sad life on one hand,
Yeah.
lonely life, but also one that it makes sense. Like it's like a good cap on the end of Jin's journey. Like him
It's very,
leaving
very
to
cool.
go off and do whatever the hell he's going to do, and then finding his mask at his grave sites. And Atsu, of course, paying respect to
The
him.
mask. I don't know about
Yeah.
you. I ended up doing the so on my single sword I had the lone wolf blade, and then
yes.
for my dual I had the
Storm blade.
lightning blade. Yeah, storm blade. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had
The-
one wolf, one storm blade. It was fucking sick.
The moment I got that, I did the exact same thing. It just fits so well, and it
Super
really
cool.
was. It was sick. It was.
I
so
love
sick.
the like how one of them is like a white handle with black little stripes on it, and the other one's the opposite.
It's like
It was
they
very,
intended
very
you
cool.
to do that.
Yeah.
They had to have done like hey, here's
Visually very cool.
yeah. Which I can't imagine anybody, by the way, that would switch off from the lone wolf, like the scabbard. Once you get it from the Oni, why anybody
Right.
would go with any other weapon besides that?
Yeah, I mean, it kept trying to like change for
Yeah.
me. Like whenever you first get the Stormblade, it changes both your stuff to the Stormblade.
Yes.
And I don't think I realized that until like there was a scene where they even mentioned like, oh, where'd you get that sword? But she was referencing her father's sword.
Yeah.
But it's like, but it was the Stormblade in the cutscene. I was like, oh fuck, I got to change that right now.
Oh damn. Yeah. Yep. You have to. It makes so much sense for if you're playing, especially if you played Tsushima, that's the setup you go with. It just,
for sure.
It just works.
sure.
Cool looking weapons too. The one thing I will say about the revenge plotline I didn't expect was, and I was happy they did because it seemed like it just made sense, was her forgiving the spider. Because whenever it showed Saito's sons, it seemed like they were more victims of Saito than these evil, scheming masterminds like the other members of the Yotei 6 were. It gave them a lot of sympathy, especially the spider, who clearly was just kind of browbeaten into this position by loving his brother and wanting to be with him and having Saito as a father. And of course, the things that he experienced with his sister dying and his mom dying probably didn't exactly help his state of mind.
Well,
And
because so that part where she does spare him, she's like already on that like path of like, okay, I don't necessarily need revenge anymore. I'm kind of done. Like, because she talked about her niece and how she only brings death. She's not bringing like peace or anything like that. She's really just making things worse. And you got the whole thing with Oyuki and the Kitsune and all that. And I really dug this game. And
yes, Oyuki,
I think-
another great part.
I think very much people need to play this game for sure.
It does throw you for some loops, like the Oyuki stuff, because I didn't see that coming. That did. I was like, oh shit.
I started. I didn't necessarily see that aspect coming. I mentioned before that there was a twist that happened that I was suspicious of a twist, but not necessarily what the twist was, and that was it. I was like, oh man, I don't necessarily trust. Like when you're in the land of the Kitsune and all that, I didn't necessarily think that she was the Kitsune. I thought she was just gonna betray me in some way.
Yeah, and I could see how you would see that. I just didn't expect her to do any of those things. So it just kind of pulled the rug out from me. Made up for the Jubei stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
Which I guess you don't really need to make it up.
Let's go ahead and let's end spoiler talk. Bring Tavin back in here, and we can let's wrap this up.
Wrap it up. Yep.
So go ahead and shoot him a text, or if you want to just yell.
Yeah. I'll shoot him right there. Yeah. So Ghost of Yotei was just a great experience. In Sucker Punch is able to somehow make what should be a generic open world, and probably would be from many other developers, into something that just has so much life breathed into it. And we have a game club where we play a lot of older games or new games that just we hadn't played yet, or we haven't entered into our ultimate best games of all time list. And Tavin has talked multiple times about wanting to go and play things like Infamous, which he has so many fond memories of. Wait, that's Sucker Punch, right? That's
Sucker Punch, yeah.
Yeah. I was
That's Sucker Punch.
I always get Sucker Punch and Insomniac confused, but
No, Sucker Punch is it's Sly Cooper, Infamous.
Yep.
There was another one before that they reference in this game with like
Yeah.
one of the little hilts or whatever.
yeah, and
Or like some of the
I can't
artwork
remember.
on the cave walls and stuff.
Yeah, and hey, I'm looking forward to playing some of their other catalog because
to Rocket on Wheels, okay?
Rocket Robot on Wheels. That's what it's
Rocket
called.
Robot on Wheels.
Rocket Robot on Wheels. Yeah.
Okay, hey, I'll pay respect to it because maybe it's a damn good game that's under the radar.
The N64 was a different time.
Oh, it was an N64.
I think so.
See, that seemed like it could have been in like
definitely that
2014
era.
days in indie games type days. No, okay.
Well, yeah, this has been your review for Ghost of Yotei. Let us know what you think about the game in the comments, and let us know what you disagree with, what you agree with about our takes in the comments. Connor, you have anything else you want to say?
No, just go play it.
Awesome,
Or
yeah.
the many other games that are great this year.
For sure.
whatever you want.
2025 is continuing to show how stacked it really is. And there's so many games, and I'm glad this is one of the ones that I played. Let's go ahead and say goodbye. We'll see you in the next time. Bye, Connor.
Bye, Phil.